You are listening to the Savage FINcast Retro, Episode 7, Super Patriot number 1 and number 2.
Chicago. A criminal mastermind called Overlord held our city in his terrifying grip. Ordinary cops were losing the battle against Overlord's super freaks and mutants. Then, a miracle happened. When I found him, he had no memory of his past. I helped him find an identity and a life. Now we have a fighting chance. Now we have the dragon.
This is the Savage FINcast, the podcast that has clack, 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 clack technology arms. I'm Raven Perez.
I'm Jim Purcell.
I'm Scott James.
Scott James? That's a weird way to pronounce Craig Olsen.
Well, it's with a silent Z.
Well, I like it.
Craig Olsen is on a mission with Youngblood and another...
He's on a mission for God.
I believe that he uploaded his consciousness into a prototype body that was not fully developed, and the lab boys had to rework it. But once we get Craig 2.0 rejiggered, hopefully he'll join us for some future retro FINcast action. For now,
you're stuck with my ass.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. It's a somewhat hairy, but defined enough buttock.
Not a pair of testes?
It's not like a sack of cottage cheese.
From Undernut.
So, for this episode, we're going to be talking about a very special mini-series. A little off
Jim?
beat. Yeah?
Real quick.
What?
If people have never heard what a Savage FINcast Retro is, allow me to just drop it on them real quick.
All right, do it.
Yeah. That is, you were about to get into the meat and potatoes. All this is, dear listener, is a Savage FINcast Retro, is a special sort of Savage FINcast where we take a look back at issues from the past, already published. They are Savage Dragon-centric, Savage Dragon-related spin-offs and mini-series included. And Jim was just about, I'm going to throw it right back to him, let you know.
We're going to be...
Beautiful one today.
Yep, we're going to be talking about the ever-classic Super Patriot miniseries. Right now we're doing issues 1 and 2.
Ooh.
And we're going to be doing 3 and 4 in a later episode.
Oh.
But, bonus, before we get into the meat and potatoes of issue 1 and 2, we got to talk about the context of where we are now in the history of Image Comics.
Lay it on us. I love to put this in context.
So, this series came out around the time the ongoing began. But even before that, our old pal Rob Liefeld decided he had a story to tell involving our Super Patriot friend in the pages of Youngblood Strike Files. The first of which, the first 3 episodes contain basically it's the story of Die Hard versus Super Patriot. Which is funny, because in a lot of ways, they're both from the same template. They're both Captain America types who have become cyberized in the modern age. So just real quick, I should just explain the story from that story, because that story informs this story.
Lay it on us.
So if we remember back in the Savage Dragon miniseries, Super Patriot was injured by Mako, had all of his limbs eaten.
Correct.
He was taken by, I want to say Cyberdyne, but that's wrong.
Cyberdata,
who is the Cyberforce guys, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm. Correct.
Gets his cybernetic body.
Yep.
So in this Strike Files series, he's still in possession of Cyberdata. Die Hard goes in to rescue him, because Die Hard and Super Patriot have history as part of what are the team known as the Allies from World War II.
Very old, yeah.
Yeah, very old team. In this story, we see a scene from the past where old school Super Patriot Die Hard and Glory are fighting the German army.
Yeah, Hitler. They fought Nazis.
Yes, they did indeed fight Nazis as a flashback, but basically that's the story of Die Hard saying, this guy's my friend. Well, actually, I got this slightly wrong. Glory comes to Youngblood and asks for Die Hard's help to find SuperPatriot because they're all friends. It's a little weird because in that story it implies the modern Die Hard isn't the goal, isn't the World War II Die Hard, but I'm pretty sure that's not true. So that may be a Youngblood plot point that I haven't ever read.
Right.
But anyway, Die Hard goes to rescue SuperPatriot from Cyberdata. They have a fight because, of course, as SuperPatriot is always getting mind-controlled, mind-fucked. They have a fight. Die Hard wins. He takes them back to Youngblood HQ. And that's where the SuperPatriot miniseries picks up from.
Right. Youngblood is a government team, so at this point, he's in government control.
Right.
Like U.S. government. Right.
Now, the hilarious thing about this Strike File series is pretty good. You know, it's all drawn by Liefeld, so if you're into that, it looks pretty good, I guess. But the funniest thing is in the first issue when we're doing the flashback back to World War II, for some reason, Liefeld thought SuperPatriot could fly.
Right.
Because he's flying all over the place, punching Nazis while flying.
Now, to be fair, I'm just going to, be devil's advocate here. Obviously, of course, research, conversation. Like, I get it. It's a gaffe that shouldn't happen. But, it fits his aesthetic. He's got that Superman kind of superhero look at this point.
It was early days Image. Not everything was clearly defined.
Right.
And I think Liefeld may have picked up on the super part of his name. It made him a tactical error.
Yeah.
Now, on the Savage Dragon Eric Larson fan group, friend of the show, hold on.
Matt
Hickman wrote in and said that, yes, that was a snafu, and either Rob or Eric explained in one of the letter pages that he just messed up, but for canon's sake, they came up with a serum that SuperPatriot had taken during the time to give him the power of flight, but it made him ill or it made him crazy.
Messed with his insides. Didn't like it.
That damn magic serum.
It makes sense. I think, what's funny is, okay, so if you're going to fuck up, what's funny is comics is just a dash of improv. And that as a fix for that fuck up is pretty good. Because if you think about it, SuperPatriot is a super soldier, basically. Mm-hmm. It makes sense that if there was something he could take to fly, he probably would. But then they're like, oh, yeah, but it also, too, well, why doesn't he take it all the time? Oh, well, it fucks with his inside, so he doesn't like it, and he quit taking it.
He flies with the power of farts.
Just when I thought we were going to get that high-class air about us and get those big sponsorship dollars.
You know what? I'm just glad it was you, Jim, and not me, because, you blowing fart noises is a hell of a lot better than me doing it.
Fart noises.
Moving along, it would appear that was that the end? Was that the end of?
That was the end of the Strike Files, basically. Yes.
Well, thank you for doing that research, because I actually do think that is a nice little extra piece of info to have, since it's referenced directly in this thing. That was continuity that mattered. And I also do think that it's really cool when you look back at these old Image books, the play and the connectivity of the shared universe, the shared sandbox. Here we have Die Hard and SuperPatriot directly connected. Much in the way that Chapel and Spawn were directly connected. And I don't know. It's neat. It's not a thing I have to have, but it's a thing that I do like about old Image. I thought that shared universe was pretty cool. So, yeah, I like it. It's neat.
Yeah, and it does seem like there was more of it back in the early days, which makes sense because they were way more into it then, and there were fewer people to keep track of.
Yeah. Less moving parts, like less of a logistical nightmare.
Well, I always found it interesting in how they did the other characters, like how the other creators had their interpretation of how Youngblood looked, or how SuperPatriot looked, or how any of the subsequent characters in the Image universe looked, or how they played a part, and I think it really shows in this SuperPatriot mini, especially the way that Youngblood's used.
Dave Johnson makes Shaft look cool.
Way cool. I'm looking at Shaft with his arms crossed in that first issue, going, "Yeah, dude, way cooler than anything, and a leader." I got that more out of this than I did out of the Youngblood that Liefeld did. So I got more of a government feel off of this, what Giffen wrote, than what actually the creator had done. And I just like that, how it blended. So, this was actually a series that I totally picked up, art-wise and story-wise.
I think this is, if we do just take 2 seconds to talk about, like, this series, I think just in a whole, like, as a whole, is fondly remembered by everyone, I think.
Yes.
Like, I just think if you were honestly talking about Savage Dragon spin-offs, I mean, goddamn, this is the creme de la creme.
I've always said SuperPatriot is probably the most viable spin-off character of Savage Dragon.
100%.
I would agree.
He's interesting. He has a unique visual. He has a crazy past, unlike any other comic character I can think of.
Well, he has, to be fair, he has the Captain America past. But what's interesting is it takes that archetype and twists it around by making him a hyper-liberal, by making him a cyborg, a man. It takes the man out of time concept and like does a 180 on it. And I think that's what makes SuperPatriot super interesting.
I see what you did there.
Who, me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I also think he's got a killer logo, too. A killer logo, an iconic look. I mean, good lord, dude. Yeah, so SuperPatriot's a total package. With this series, I mean, my God, you have an all-star creative team.
Yeah, we should talk about who made this book.
Oh, good lord. It's like you got Larson doing creating and scripting, Keith Giffen doing plotting and storytelling, Dave Johnson, pencil and inks.
Johnson just killed it throughout the whole thing.
Total fucking monster.
Oh.
Chris Eliopoulos on lettering, and again, you would just be like, oh, on lettering, but like absolutely critical in this series.
Yeah, we see a lot of those classic Eliopoulos sound effects in this series.
Yes, dude. Yes. Like, still look good, and like I visually associate them with Savage Dragon to this day. Like, the firing, like, you know.
Well, they still hold their own. If you put those sound effects in any other book, they would still hold. This is almost like a time capsule, just on art, story, and lettering alone. Coloring is very dated, but man, the rest of it.
I'll even go to bat for this coloring. So here's the thing. I get it. You got a lot of early Image stuff going on. Digital Chameleon, right? Color separating. They're still referring to it as color separating and stuff. That's some early-ass digital coloring. However, there are parts that I get it. There's some weird color holds. We'll talk about it when it gets to it. we'll talk about like stuff that just really is a home run and stuff that really falls apart. But I'm going to go ahead and say this. There's some really crummy comic coloring like these days. Like there's a huge push. Not a huge push. I'm not going to act like that. I'm just saying there's a lot of colorists. There's a lot of colorists these days that are afraid to dip into a vibrant palette. And I'm going to say that as you flip through this book,
Really, I kind of have the opposite. I think people use too much color these days. That it like buries the line art half the time.
Well, I don't mean overwhelming.
You're talking vibrance because
I'm talking about vibrance.
You've got your neon green and you got your hot pink.
Neon green, hot pink. Yes, dude. That's
that's what you're talking about. It's retina burning, vibrant, kind of hot.
Right.
Yeah, I get that. That's the total.
When Shaft first shows up here, like there's a scene where like Shaft's like pink. I'm just saying, like the coloring is experimental as hell, and I love it. I think that, yeah, you could say, okay, it's garish or whatever, but I'll take garish over boring.
Wait, Shaft is pink to you?
Issue 1, if you flip ahead, there's a scene where, like, he's floating in a virtual simulation, and there's pink light everywhere. Anti-grav on at the top of the page.
In issue 1?
Issue 1. It's opposite of the spread where Dragon's punching SuperPatriot.
So
you're down further in. I'm like only a few pages in.
Okay, yeah. So, sorry, we're getting real broad strokes here, and I'm referring to something specific. So,
the pink lighting means his red's going to read more pink in the room.
Well, I'm just saying.
You just don't care for it. You don't think it works.
No, I'm supporting it, dude. I'm saying this this doesn't read to me as dated. To me, there are mistakes. Like I said, I'll gladly talk to you. There's some color holds later on that do not work at all.
Let's talk about the cover real quick. What do you guys think about the coloring on the cover? Because I think there's some stuff going on here that's a little bit.
I think the coloring on all right. The cover is brilliant. I think the composition is great. Everything linear, layout-wise. Johnson, I'm sorry. The dude is brilliant on this.
He likes putting canisters on things.
Yes. Yeah. Canisters have canisters. But the colors are way too hot for me.
Yeah. Look at the mud on those boots. They don't... It looks like it wasn't even supposed to be there.
The thing about the mud on the boots is I'll agree that the mud on the boots is weak. You can literally tell that like the person didn't mess with the brush size too much. It's almost the same brush stroke. But you got to remember this is 1993.
Well, and that's it. And that's
this
where
is cutting edge.
Is this digital coloring? Is this...
This is digital.
This is digital. This is like digital, the beginning of digital. And that's where I forgive it because... Raven's right. It's an experiment right now. Yeah. They're playing with what can we do digital wise. How can we get brush? You guys talk about how I do textures or how Nikos does textures. This was the forefront. It
really was.
This is them cutting edge, going, hey, what can we do to make it more real or give this texture? They didn't have the brushes that I have.
No, they do not. That's just. I'm glad you said that.
They had dodge and burn.
That's it.
Yeah,
that's it,
dude.
That's
airbrush
it.
and pencil. That's what they had.
So for them, this was an experiment. They were playing, going, okay, this is kind of the effect I want to do. How do I do that? Let me try this. And you know what? I don't fault them for that. You won't hear me. Am I wild about the coloring? No. Are there issues? You're not going to hear me bitch about the coloring. The art is phenomenal on this. Yes, I think if it was colored today, it would blow this out of the water.
I think it'd be more boring. I'm just going to say I think it'd be less experimental with the palette.
Less experimental with the palette, yes. But I'm saying if they revisited it and,
the art. I completely understand what you're saying.
The art itself, I mean, Johnson's...
And I make fun of it because I love it, by the way.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not being critical to be mean.
Oh, yeah, please understand. I'm not like, this cannot be judged. Like, there's
saying,
things I'm just...
This is the kind of stuff that makes it part of its era, and I find that charming.
Right.
I mean, if you look at some of the squiggle lines that are on the metal that they've colored in orange, where it looks like veins, and then they've got yellow on one side, blue on the other, that's not the way it was meant to be colored. But they were trying to figure all that shit out. Right. And, I don't fault them for that. I thought it was brilliant how Dave Johnson was going in and adding textures to shit in his pen and inks that gave a different feel that you had never seen before.
I gotta imagine, I don't even have to imagine. I remember buying this when this was new. I didn't get the whole thing. I got issue 1 and issue 2, and that's all I got. I never finished this when I was young. But, when I saw this fucking comic, when I was a kid, this blew my goddamn balls off. I'm just saying, the visuals, it looked it's hard to describe. I know it's going to sound stupid, but it was like the leap in quality between fucking Nintendo and Super Nintendo. Mm-hmm. Here was a visual increase in fidelity that was immediately apparent. You could immediately see that the coloring on this comic was unquestionably superior to what was happening at fucking Marvel and DC.
Exactly. And now, Raven, let me ask you this. Mm-hmm. As an artist, you looked at Dave Johnson's work, and you wanted that to be you. You wanted to be that guy. You wanted
all those tubes.
You wanted that guy. You wanted to be that guy that went into Larson's sandbox, and Larson goes, "Hey, here you go, play," and boom! All of a sudden, your career is skyrocketing. I mean, that's what happened with Dave. I saw him on this. The next thing I knew, I saw his shit everywhere. Yeah, in the major companies.
Well, we've talked about it. We've talked about it before. Sorry to interrupt.
That's all right.
Bookmark, but we've talked about it before. But the industry reads this book, and in many ways, if you sing on Savage Dragon, your shit's gonna pulse throughout the industry. And absolutely, Dave Johnson blew the fuck up off of this book for sure.
Oh yeah, and that's what I hoped to have happen. Did it happen? No, but that's what I hoped to happen.
Well, become Dave Johnson, goddammit. Just do
exactly.
It.
If I could
How
be
hard could it
like
be?
Dave, if I could be like Dave, But the thing is that you look at it and it's like, bam, he hit that fucker out of the park like nobody's business. I mean, there was no skin left on that ball after this miniseries until the next miniseries that he did.
Until the next one, yes.
And then you didn't think he could top it. But this, you look at it with all the faults that we call faults in hindsight, but in retrospect, those eyes that were looking at it are now eyes that are further advanced. The optics back then, this was it. This was brilliance.
Yeah. As a kid, I could not stop reading this shit. I read this issue over and over and over, just soaking in all those little details.
I remember when I read it for the first time 6 months ago.
I remember.
I found it in a bin.
Here's
$4
Jim.
American dollars.
Jim going, I remember my first beer.
Yeah, I was 23.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me ask you. I am interested in this opinion, and I think it has validity and weight. Share us your initial impressions of your first experience of this. Because obviously, for me, there's a hefty dose of nostalgia, but to me, it also holds the fuck up. But I'd love to hear what you thought of it.
There's two main things. One, people have talked this series up like crazy. Here's the thing. Okay. Let me just give you a real quick rundown of my SuperPatriot experience. I read America's Fighting Force when it was new because I was a Kirkman fan. It was coming out at the same time I was getting into Savage Dragon.
I get it. Okay.
So that was my gateway to Super Patriot being a cool-ass character.
Sure.
So I read that, and then they reprinted the Liberty and Justice trade, so I got that and read that. So I got that Dave Johnson experience.
You saw it in reverse.
And then I read the next one that came out, that's name is escaping me, War and Terror, I think, which remember, had a super delay, like on the last issue, it took forever to come out. Mm-hmm. And then, I've only just read this first series in the last 6 months. But here's the thing about this series. It looks great. I love it. I'm reading this series kind of looking for... What am I trying to say here? I appreciate this series for its Kieth Giffen-isms. There's a lot of Kieth Giffen in this book, and we're going to get into that, I think, when we talk about some of the other things that went on in this issue.
Sure. Yeah.
But because, I've read a lot more Kieth Giffen before I read this series. So anyway, what am I trying to say here? I have one last thing to say.
Your impressions.
My impressions are... Oh, yeah. While this is a visually great series, and it is a classic, Super Patriot is almost a secondary character in his own story.
Oh, absolutely.
He barely talks until the very, last 5 pages of issue 4.
Listen, story-wise, the Kirkman book tops it.
Yes.
But...
That's what I'm getting at, is that the series that I had read previously were much more about Johnny.
Sure.
And this series is not. Or at least it's not, except for, all the stuff with the flashbacks and him getting control of his life. It's more of a Die Hard story in some ways.
Well, this is, I think, more of a story of the whole technical aspect of how he became what he is.
Right.
And less of him as a actual person, where you get that more from Kirkman's story than this story. This is more explaining the whole cyber aspect of it and the techno talk. And I think it has a lot to do because Cyberforce was killing it at this time. And I think this was that in with what was going on with Cyberforce.
You ready for some highfalutin horse shit?
Have at it.
Well, get ready, because here's my blistering hot take on this 1993 Diamond. I don't think that this is a Die Hard story. When I read it here, fresh, because see, the thing is I told you, I only got halfway through as a kid. I forgot issue 2. I'm not even going to lie. I forgot issue 2. Issue 1 is forever burned in my memory because I must have read it a million times. I literally forgot issue 2, though. So I only just finished this series. I bought these, Jim, I think at Terrificon.
Could have, yeah.
I think I did. Maybe I didn't, but I bought them recently. I only just read this year. You ready for my adult take on this series? I don't think it's not about Super Patriot at all. I think this is Frankenstein's monster starring Frankenstein, except he gets to find his humanity at the end instead of getting destroyed. I think it's a great fucking take on just what Scott said, technology, cyberpunk, man versus machine, all those well-traveled paths. But I think it's a really awesome Frankenstein because the whole time he's like you said, he doesn't talk. He's dehumanized left and right by everyone except his fucking friends. And that's ultimately his human bonds that he made are ultimately what save him. And I'm just saying, to me, this reads like some kind of modern Frankenstein.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Where Frankenstein was built to be a weapon. I love it, dude. I loved this. I never read the ending till fucking... this year, like just now for this show. And I loved how it ended. I was like, oh, this is good. I like this. There you go, folks. There's my highfalutin horse shit on it.
Well, we should probably get into some specifics about issue 1.
Right.
Where it opens up with introducing us to the atrocities of the Covenant of the Sword, who I imagine this is the first appearance of the Covenant of the Sword.
Yes, they are treated like an unknown commodity.
Yeah, they're a secret organization that has caught the U.S. government completely flat-footed.
Yep, no one's ever heard of them before in any way.
And they made a big splash with putting a bunch of people on
Klansmen, which I find weird.
Well,
I don't understand.
Covenant of the Sword is one of those we're trying to make the world better through violence
Oh.
sort of organizations.
Okay, makes sense. Got it. Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So it's about, it's on paper they're good guys, but in practice they're mass murderers.
Sure.
Who only care about their objectives.
Let me just take 2 seconds to praise Johnson's double-page spread here.
Oh yeah,
like the pen work on like the smoke and like the detective's jacket and stuff.
Yep.
Oh God, it's so good. And it's funny to see even way back 17 years ago that thing where he does choppy inks on the
That's what I'm talking about with the texture, the texturing.
He still does that.
He does that even greater today than he did. Yep. You can see the beginnings of that in this. And
when you say choppy blacks, you mean like those spots where the blue poke through?
Yeah, and the detective's jacket.
Yeah.
Yep, that is something he still does. That's great. I just love that big fucking thick detective. Yep.
So very large shoulder.
Yeah.
Well, and it's just a great layout on the top of that page. It really is, and between the smoke, the fire, just the sense of scale as you move away from that top detective who we've seen in Dragon, and that more of a Fed guy.
Tell me a little bit more about that. Have we?
I thought he was a Youngblood character.
Who is that guy?
We've seen him in haven't we seen him in Dragon when he's talking to SuperPatriot? Basically, when he's trying to get him to run the SOS.
Okay, that would make sense because he's like Youngblood's liaison.
Yeah, he's a government guy.
And SOS was the Youngblood replacement, so it makes sense that he would be the guy.
He went to, if I remember correctly, he's the one who asked Johnny and SuperPatriot, and he's like, no, and that's we've seen that tattered office that he's in.
Cool.
I could be wrong, but
believe me, we'll hear it if you are.
I'm working on verifying this info now.
Okay. Well, I'll buy you time, Jim.
Do we remember what his name is? Jake Farrell? Yeah. Oh, is it him?
I think it is Jake.
And
that's craziest thing in all 4 issues. I swear to you, they only say his name once and just his first name. I swear I don't think they say his full name the whole time.
All right, so here are the facts.
Lay it on us.
This is his first appearance.
Oh.
And his next appearance is issue 40, where SOS is founded.
Nice.
Thank you.
Nice, validating.
And he does appear in he appears in Liberty and Justice and also War on Terror.
Okay.
And strangely enough, Mars Attacks Image. Probably because of his Youngblood connection, and that's where Youngblood dies, so that makes sense. He's also in a bunch of issues of Freak Force, so he's not in a lot. And according to this, he's still alive. So, Gavin, get on that.
Gavin, this guy's got to be old as shit by now.
Time to kill him.
Wouldn't it be funny if he still was had gigantic fucking shoulders,
But anyway,
Johnny will forgive me one day.
So yeah, he's a Super Patriot supporting character more so than anything else. I guess. Well, there's no data here on Youngblood appearances, so.
Good on you, Scott.
Although it does say he was in Bloodstrike number 8, so I don't know.
Good on you. I just wanted to drop some props on. So the transition, to keep it sort of transitional, we're not doing page by page on this. This is retro. We're just sort of doing the feels, right?
Yep.
Okay, so I love the coloring on this whole KKK burning scene. It's absolutely beautiful. To me, it's still beautiful. The clouds above the Pentagon, very Giffen-esque, very Trencher. Tell me I'm wrong. Trencher.
Yeah. I can see what you're saying there. But we should talk about Keith Giffen's role in this book.
I'll lay it on us.
So here's the thing: Keith Giffen, generally speaking, when he's credited as plotter and
storyteller, yep.
Storyteller, that usually means he did layouts for the entire book.
Yeah.
And whether or not the artist, was slavish to him or did his own thing. But generally speaking, Keith Giffen does the layouts, and then everyone else just kind of works around that.
Sure.
That's how That's how Keith Giffen usually does his plots.
He does.
In art form.
Well, I worked as Ron Wagner's assistant back when Ron Wagner did Book of Fate. And Keith Giffen wrote that, and that's how he would send Ron his sketches, and then Ron would look at his sketch layouts of what he wanted to do, what Keith wanted to do story-wise, and then Ron would do whatever he wanted to do, changing it or, oh no, this is perfect. The panel to panel is great, or he'd be like, you know what, no, I want to change it to this, or add this bit of business or that bit of business. So it was kind of cool at that stage of what I was doing back in the early 90s, early mid-90s, mid-90s, seeing what, an artist, I had never seen that before. And for me, that was like totally mind-blowing.
Let me ask you.
Yeah.
If you saw any of them, does he, because you can do layouts like that, baseball card size, like thumbs, which is what a lot of guys do. Does he work baseball card size, or does he work full size with these these plots, these visual plots?
From what I remember, he did like basically it was a comic book page.
So full size?
No, it wasn't full size, but it was like reduced down.
Oh, the 610, the 6x10, the finished comic size.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
And back then it was faxed. So it had to be something that was faxed.
Sure.
So that's what got me interested when I sent Jason Howard when I was starting to do writing and whatnot. For me, I was like, well, shit. Keith Giffen's writing and he's doing layouts. He's telling the artist kind of this is what he's envisioning. So that's what got me interested in trying to write that way. So when I sent Jason Howard layouts for Juice Man, I would be like, okay, this is what for the Dutch backup, I was like, oh, it was total Keith Giffen style. And and it was all because of what I saw with Book of Fate that Ron Wagner was getting from him, and how Ron was changing that into full pencil pages. So for me, that was like a total learning experience. I had never seen that before. It had always been
sort of Marvel method in a way,
but it's a weird. It's not Marvel. It's not a Marvel method. It's not a DC method.
It's a Keith Giffen method.
Yeah,
he uses it a lot.
That's the only way that Giffen does it.
And I think Eric does it that way too, right? I mean, he does a lot of that sort of loose pencil stuff as a guideline.
Yes and no. I've always gotten from Eric a really Marvel method type style writing.
Yeah, when you're working with collaborators, he'll send you like text plot.
Yes, but if he does not like, or if what you're visualizing and doing, it doesn't match what he's seeing, he'll go, well, no, this is kind of what I was seeing. And he'll send you a little thumbnail sketch. And it's really loose. And it's enough to go, oh, okay, this is the camera angle that you want. Or, oh, this is what you're envisioning. It's just like, really loose sketch. I've had that happen, just on like one or two occasions, and it's like, okay, yeah, I'm overthinking it, or I'm pulling too close in where he wants me to do more of an establishing shot, or I've seen it with the cover that I did with Gavin with Brute Force, that back cover. Eric goes, well, you know what? I like it, but the proverbial but. I like it, but you know what? If you did this, I think it would be stronger. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, no, I get that. And then I penciled it and sent it to him, and he would ink it. That's the only time I've seen Eric do that kind of Giffen type thing. Now with Francesco, with the She-Dragon, I know that Eric did more of a Giffen kind of esque. This is kind of the story I want to tell. Here's the layouts.
I know he did that on Supreme as well.
So yeah,
he did layouts on Supreme. So it's like a method he can do, but he does very often also for himself. So basically, like, he can create pages a variety of ways. Like, he could do the Marvel method with a collaborator where he's just sending you, like, nothing but, like, just, okay, on this page there's a fight, and on this page people are sitting down at a table, and on this page, they're being a little flirty, but, she gets up and she
more of a paragraph in each sentence is a panel.
Right. But he can also, just for himself, like, bang out, like, sketching, just sketcheroo, and then he just fills in the dialogue later. And then, which is kind of like, but also too, apparently we've seen him do the third thing where he does the Giffen thing, where he knows what he wants basically, so he's just sending you layouts, and then you as the artist execute the layout.
Now early on, I asked him with one of the backups that I did. It was right after Francesco's She-Dragon, and I asked him, I go, "Are you going to lay this out? What am I going to expect? Are you going to lay this out, or is it going to be kind of Marvel method? What am I to expect?" And I think he was burnt out at that time of doing or at least that's the impression I got, that he was burnt out with doing layouts. And he said, no, this is what you're going to get, and that was, I think, my first backup with Alex. So he goes, "Yeah, no, I'm not going to lay it out. You've got the first pinup. The pinup that you did will be the splash page, and the rest will be, I'll give you some verbiage, Marvel method, and you go from there." So again, every time has been a learning experience. And then when Eric goes, "You know what? That's not cutting it. This is what I'm thinking." Like the one that I did with Alex and Battle Girl and Bud Ugly, I wasn't hitting that splash page the way he wanted it. I was shooting over Alex's shoulder, holding the gun, and he wanted it more of, you saw her full figure, kind of like knees buckled in, kind of distraught, and he sent me a really, really loose sketch, and I was like, oh, okay, got it, not a problem. But the rest of the story he didn't lay out, so like I said, I've seen him do it a multitude of ways, but that Keith Giffen, everybody calls it Keith Giffen writing because that's how Keith Giffen writes. Every time.
Let me drag this back to that page, because there's a lot of going on this page that I wanted to say, because I think there's some really cool shit. Just in this one single page. Pentagon, U.S. soldiers at the door, big picture of that technology just spilling out of the ceiling.
All right.
You know the page I'm looking at? All right.
Yep.
So what I was saying is at the top you got the clouds, very Trencher-esque, loving it. You got the soldiers standing at the door, and here's a little tidbit that I sort of bumbled across. Listen, Speculation Town, USA, okay? Mere speculation. I'm simply throwing out a hypothesis. So take this with a grain of salt the size of the Rock of Gibraltar. But, so take a look at these soldiers. The U.S. soldiers there. Jim, I want you to say, just, if you had to compare this to any kind of manga,
yeah,
what's this evocative of?
Appleseed.
Boom, baby. Headshot. First time. Nailed it. Check it out, dude. Appleseed was published in English by Eclipse Comics in 1992. From 1988 to 1992. And this book comes out later in 93. I'm just saying, you got basically what amounts to 4 years of Appleseed influence on U.S. soil. Now, this is exciting to me because I never would have in a million years made that connection until I started thinking. I was like, wait a minute. I was like, it'd be good to bring to the FINcast. I was like, this is very, like, trying to nail down this tech look that we all love. Because let's be a straight shooter here. Before SuperPatriot, before this series, it's famously known that, SuperPatriot had the tube gun arms, right? I mean, that's right?
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah, his arms would just turn into tube guns.
Yeah.
And then after this series, even Eric changed the way he drew the guns. So it's kind of cool because there's kind of this weird sort of Masamune Shiro Appleseed influence via Dave Johnson. I'm not saying that's official, folks. I'm just saying the timing's impeccable. That's all. You look at those soldiers, you look at Tech in Appleseed, you look at Masamune Shiro, dude, it's really, Jim nailed it right off the bat. At the same time, I'm not saying anything bad because I think it's a brilliant marriage of U.S. comics and that hyper scritchy, scratchy, detailed, like cyberpunk of Masamune Shiro. Because look at those guns those dudes are holding.
I'm not saying it's manga, but I'm saying it's manga.
Yeah. Well, also, too, though, it's very much an early Image 90s huge super canon.
Yeah.
But manga'd out. You know what I'm saying? And then the last thing, and I'll shut up, but this page blew me away with all these revelations, like just all at once. And I think this page is a beautiful marriage of all these influences. Like, you got the Kieth Giffen, like, even the clouds look like something out of Trencher. You got the Appleseed guards. You got all this tech. As I was just saying, it really dawned on me, it really occurred how influential, like, what an impact. Because even in Invincible, having a sub-basement full of technology and spooky things under the Pentagon is considered canon. I just think that's beautiful, dude.
Parking in rear.
I just think it's beautiful. I just wanted to say that. It blew me away. As I was reading this, I was just like, oh, dude, yes. So I'll shut up. I'll let us get back to what we were saying.
Well, let's get through issue 1 real quick. So basically, SuperPatriot's being held in the sub-basement. They're trying to, deprogram him from Cyberdata's corruption.
Right.
Shaft is kind of pissed about it because they're being super secretive about it.
Yep.
And they're highly implying that they're trying to turn SuperPatriot into a weapon of their own because they believe Johnny's mind is gone and he is just technology.
Right.
So they throw him into a simulator. Oh, well, just before that, they throw him into a simulator, and some weird things start happening. It shows that he's still. This is the big action scene of this issue, is that it's all in this virtual simulator, and we see all that cool Iliopolis sound effect lettering and
check. Yep.
Dave Johnson just going nuts with the weaponry and just doing his thing. But we get the weird thing happening where Johnny is visualizing Dragon as his enemy, and he doesn't want to hurt Dragon from their encounter back in issue 3 of the issue 2 of the miniseries.
Yeah, I'm a cop, stupid.
Yep. And so what has happened is Johnny appears to be stopping himself from going too far because
he freezes.
He freezes up and he doesn't want to hurt Dragon. So every time in the simulator Dragon shows up in his mind, Dragon punches him in half and basically ends the simulation early.
Yep.
So all the scientists are worried that if you put him out in the field, he's going to freeze up because he's going to see Dragon or whatever he's seeing and freeze up.
Or at least become worthless.
Yeah, he's going to be a worthless weapon. Yep. But he still needs to be field tested, so they're going to send him out anyway.
Yeah.
And then they're going to use him as a retaliatory strike against this Covenant of the Sword organization.
Yeah, for operating so openly on U.S. soil.
So brazenly. But then we learn that one of the women who was on the council that we saw earlier as part of the U.S. government is also a covert member of the Covenant of the Sword, and all of this has been engineered by her.
Right.
To embarrass the U.S. government, or at least to expose them as ineffective.
It was to actually lure them into the next move, to sort of like humiliate them / lure them into another move.
So, this Covenant of the Sword scene, actually, we can, if there's anything we want to say about the coloring here, because it seems a bit different in this scene than previous scenes.
Which Covenant of the Sword?
Well, it seems very muted until you get to like the yellows, and then the yellows get very bright. Well, when they're sitting there, okay. We've all seen that page with the Covenant of the Sword building and the limo. Right. Eric has recreated that numerous times.
Oh, that's true. He does reuse that.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm so stupid. I did not pick that up as a visual trope. That's a visually recurring trope.
We see that back when
there's quite a few pages in this series that Eric reuses throughout.
Don't we see that when SuperPatriot and Dart try to infiltrate the Covenant of the Sword?
Yes.
In like issue 73 or 4?
Yes.
Somewhere around there?
Yes.
Damn, you guys are beasts. That's awesome.
Yep.
I didn't realize it until you mentioned it, but that definitely was similar.
No, it's identical.
Perfect. I'll have to check that out.
It's absolutely identical. All of the storytelling, panel to panel, is exact.
Mm-hmm.
So that page is identical to a page, and then you get into the next page where it's more muted color.
Right, because they're subterranean again.
Yeah. And for me, that you go from such vibrant color to such muted color, it's hard to. You're like, what's going on?
Also, an interesting thing going on with the architecture. It's almost like a church with the arch ceilings.
Oh, yeah.
And the
I'm sure that's intentional.
Well, yeah, and Eric tried to do that. Well, and Eric tried to recreate that when he had Dragon and Dart as SuperPatriot infiltrate the Covenant of the Sword. But it wasn't, you didn't get that same sense of architecture. You got the same sense of scale,
right? But
not the same sense of architecture in that space. It was interesting to see Eric's take on this, the character that is more of a robotic.
Mm-hmm.
We saw him.
You're talking about the guy with the big ass body and the little like scorpion tail.
Yes, and the claws. The one that had Malcolm originally as a child in the tube.
Mm-hmm.
So
does he have a name? Are we dumbasses? I'm sure he's got a name. This guy. He's never named in the series. That's one little nitpick. Is I do kind of wish that somebody, or they even be like Master or something like that. But I don't think anybody's really. I don't think anybody. It's a striking.
I thought it was
felt
just
like
me.
Not a lot of names. You thought it was what? I don't feel like he's named.
She asks, has the council convened? And he says they're waiting on you. But we never see the council. We only see this one guy.
I think it's the other bug man in the panel, dude.
Oh, you mean the other one's floating? Oh,
yeah. There
are other guys floating.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's the thing. I picked up on the council, but, this dude, he's, I guess, clearly the speaker. If he's not the leader, he's the speaker. But, yeah, no one's named. Is this chick named? I don't think she's named.
That's what my next question was. Who's the chick?
Well, she's definitely the senator from an earlier scene.
Right. Which, by the way, I loved the way that felt like a dumb one-off joke, but it was actually a really brilliant way to, highlight her.
Right. Right, when he says, ladies and, he says, gentlemen, and ladies.
Yeah, that felt like a dumb one-off joke. I was like, ugh. And then I read on and I was like, oh, that's genius.
Oh, that's the only scene she appears in. I mean, before she gets to her bungalow.
Right. I'm telling you.
I guess she's never named. You're right.
So many people are not named in this, dude.
Yeah.
Like Shaft and Die Hard and Johnny, like they're named. I guess the important ones are. But like, I don't even think they call Data Man, do they? They do. I think they call Data Man, but like that might be it. Yeah, Shaft like is talking to Data Man. He's like, I don't need your attitude, Data Man, or whatever. But like, I'm telling you, like so many of these other people, like the head of the Covenant of the Sword and like the blonde senator, I don't think they're named. Rockpile's named.
So
right.
we should get into Rockpile in issue number 2. Because Johnny gets to this island, and he's supposed to be there to fight the Covenant of the Sword as a retaliatory strike, but he runs into this big, stony-looking guy, kind of a big thing-looking guy. Yep. And of course, because he's big and strong, Johnny starts seeing dragon in him, which causes him to freeze up, which leads us into issue number 2.
Before we jump into issue number 2, can I please just take 2 seconds to say that there's a really super fun little letter there at the end, like where before there's a letters page, because by the way, Stars and Gripes is a funny name for a letter column, but I think it's an interesting snapshot where Eric is talking about all the labor that they suddenly picked up once they started working at Image. Like these Retro FINcasts, I'm sorry to like slow the roll, but like with letters pages, I mean there's some other letters that I think are just hilarious and great. But
do you have the print copy in front of you?
I sure do. Yeah.
You're the only one of us who does. You got to tell us about the ads before we move on.
Yes.
After you do this letter.
Oh, absolutely. So this letter, the beautiful thing is that he basically is talking about how they picked up so many more responsibilities when they moved from working at Marvel and DC and stuff to moving to Image. And it's just a great snapshot in time because Eric is like talking about like what a hassle it is and how it slowed down books, right? And I was just like, oh man, that's great. What a great little sort of like, time capsule of a sentiment. You know what I mean? But then he turns around and he's talking about like some of the other things. And he's like assembling the team that made this book, right? And he was like, assembling the team of this book has been one of the most satisfying experiences in my career. And he talks about like Keith Giffen and how he talked about what he wanted and, Lobo and the Justice League. And then, he talks about meeting Dave Johnson at San Diego convention. I assume San Diego Comic-Con. And then he says, like, it blew him away, and he knew that he was, like, top of the list when he wanted to make this book. I was like, oh, dude. And then, like, he talks about Chris, of course, and, like, even Digital a Chameleon, which he ties them to, like, Trencher and Lobo.
Right.
And so it's just kind of really awesome. That letter is really, really great. House ads are also pretty cool on this one because you have Freak Force coming soon. It's the one we all know, the
one drawn by Eric.
Yeah, Ricochet trademark, Barbaric trademark, SuperPatriot trademark, that one. Then you got an ad for Trencher, making the world safe for whatever, right? So awesome. It's that like super crazy drawn, like the one where he's like squatting and smoking.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then you flip it, you got Vanguard is coming. Again, another one we know. Like then you got one for Images of Shadowhawk with Keith Giffen and Alan Grant.
Yep, that one looks a lot like Trencher, so if you like Trencher, check that one out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that one's awesome. Also, real quick, sorry to bring the letter up one last time, but like I had wondered previously on one of these shows who wrote some of the copy on the early Image ads, and Eric takes some of the credit for writing ad copy. He says, I write ad copy, solicitation copy. So if you liked things like, it's too goddamn perfect and stuff like that was actually probably Eric, is what's funny. But then it has, after the Shadowhawk thing, you have a sweet, basically like double page spread profit ad. So like it's like a little mini poster, which was the thing. Early Image books were full of like posters and stuff. So here's this like pretty badass picture of Prophet in front of a bunch of fucking robots and stuff. It looks cool. And then all these like sweet ass old Image ads. You've got a Topps Trading Card presents Sam Keith's Trading Card Series. You just got this really wicked-ass picture of the Max. And it's like a 90-card series. It says this series includes more than 40 Keith originals created exclusively for Topps. By the way, FOMO, strong at work in the collector area. Bonus, collect all 4 super premium etched foil chase cards. And then you have Spawn 15 with Clown and Violator. It's black and white. And then on the very ass back, you got the cover to Super Patriot 2.
So let's talk about that.
Beautiful. Let's get into that Super Patriot second scintillating slugfest. Which was the copy on the ad.
Yes, I gathered.
Right.
So we get the back of this stony guy. What did you say his name was?
It is Rockpile.
Rockpile.
Mm-hmm.
But the really cool thing about this cover is that gun at the bottom of the page.
Mm-hmm.
Where you can see like the inside of the cover. I don't know, it's a really cool gun.
You know, talking about the gun, do you see where it says Kudzu Tech on the one tube up by Rockpile's shoulder blade?
I do now.
So Kudzu Tech, I tried to find out what that was for this podcast.
Yeah.
Forgive me, maybe Scott knows more than I do about this. Do you, Scott? Do you know what Kudzu Tech is?
Well, I know what kudzu is.
No,
but the Kudzu Tech specifically, like why it would be there.
No.
All right, so here's what I could find. It was dodgy as shit. So, dear listeners, forgive me. I could hardly find anything at all about what the hell that was. Because it appears to, for the listener, just for the listeners out there who maybe don't have a copy or they're driving or whatever, we have a tube. There's mini tubes in Super Patriot, but one of the mini tubes, and a lot of the tubes have stuff written on them like 100 gigabytes or 200 gigabytes or something like that. Then I started noticing a trend where some of the tubes say Kudzu Tech. And this tube in particular on the cover of Super Patriot 2 says Kudzu Tech and appears to have a Triforce from Legend of Zelda.
Yeah.
With leaves coming out of it, like holly leaves, right?
Yeah,
I
holly
see
leaves,
that.
exactly.
Yeah.
So what Kudzu Tech was, as best as I could find, because there was virtually no information. So I can't even take this really as the gospel. But apparently, Kudzu Tech was internally Dave Johnson's own reference for this visual style of technology.
Yeah, that makes sense, because kudzu is a form of vines.
Right.
And his arms act like vines.
Very tubular vines.
Yes,
very
totally tubular.
So it makes sense. It makes sense he would call it Kudzu Tech. And according to this is just I couldn't find any other info on this anywhere, but there was a guy who actually owns a page from Super Patriot, this series, and he said that Kudzu Tech was a reference to Dave Johnson's Kudzu Tech Studios, which is what he called himself.
I see.
When he got started. And I even saw where another artist, different artist drawing a Marvel book had written Kudzu Tech on some cyborg's eye that got knocked out by Venom as a reference to Dave Johnson, as a reference to this series. So holy shit, super deep cuts. But if you're reading this series, the Super Patriot series, and you're wondering, what the fuck is Kudzu Tech? Like, I thought it would be an Appleseed reference.
Right.
It wasn't. Apparently, it was just his own. It was like a signature.
I used to do that all the time, like with RPGs and artwork that I did for role playing games or collectible card games. I would do little tips of the hat for studio shit. So
it's a John Day. It's a Boom Pow Tacos.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Just a little nod. So if you were wondering what Kudzu Tech is, like, there you go, folks. I did the homework for you.
Raven Perez doing the heavy lifting.
So we got a few more credits on the credit page, because there's flashbacks in this issue, and they have different inkers for the different styles.
Love it.
Yeah,
Kevin Nolan does the 1990s.
Kevin Nolan... whenever Kevin Nolan inks somebody, it looks like Kevin Nolan. I mean, and even Dave Johnson looks like Kevin Nolan on these pages, which, is fine. I get it. Because when Eric Larson inks somebody, it a lot of times looks like Eric Larson. So I really enjoyed seeing the different inkers on the flashbacks on these pages.
What a treat!
It was.
I'd forgotten all about it.
And they got
when I was flipping through, my mind was blown. I was like, yes.
And they got Dave Gibbons to do the 1969 story.
Yeah,
and Dave Gibbons is a treasure. Mm-hmm. And Carl Story is the 1941 section.
Pulling in that Kirby section. Very nice.
Very Kirby section.
Nice.
Very Kirby and very Giffen. That section's very Giffen. I don't know.
Well, Giffen is
very Kirby influenced,
yes,
for sure.
Yeah.
But it felt like the page that looked most like Giffen would do. Mm-hmm. I don't know if Dave is channeling his inner Kirby and it just looks like that, or if maybe he followed Kieth's layouts closer that time. But it felt different. You can feel the difference in the different inkers.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, and Josh Eichhorn's here. It's a bootlicking toady.
Old bootlicking toady. So good, dude. I love it. Yeah, this is another absolute visual feast. I love talking about experimental coloring that I think is great. Color holds, just so if anybody doesn't know.
I have no idea.
Sorry to talk down.
Educate me.
Yes. Sorry to talk down if you already know, but it's when something that would be normally just solid black in ink, or, in ink form would be solid black, gets colored, and it's just solid color now. So those color hold trees in the background, that to me is very successful still. I really like the look of that. And
well, it makes them look out of focus, like they're like you get depth of field sort of trick going on.
Yeah, and I think that's awesome. And I also still think the texture on the rocks is nice. So, absolutely awesome. Mm-hmm. So good. And you get some of that texture on Rock Pile too.
I don't like the gradients they use on his costume, because like the rocks are all flat colored, but the costume is like got gradients going on. I don't know. I don't think it works.
What gradients?
Like the green in his costume. Like how?
Oh, I get it. Yeah. I get you. I see what you're saying. It's kind of that in the beginning of digital coloring, they did a lot of airbrush stuff. Again, Photoshop. Right. You didn't have a lot of tools.
I don't even think it's Photoshop at this point. I think it's that format that no longer supported, and all these color files are lost forever. Format. I'm pretty sure that's why we've never seen this reprinted, is because it's got the color files gone, just like the early Dragon issues.
Isn't it a heartbreaker that we never will be able to now, though?
Because you want to spend thousands of dollars.
Youngblood, dude. Heavy Youngblood involvement.
I don't understand what he's saying.
You won't see it again in print because of Liefeld doesn't own.
Oh, right. But I'm pretty sure Eric owns the reprint rights, and I think that's ironclad.
Oh, okay.
Because that was the deal he made with Liefeld, is that if he uses his characters, he can reprint it indefinitely. And so those rights would transfer when he gave up the rights.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah,
at least that is, me, not a lawyer, would assume this is the case. Because I doubt Eric would ever want to use characters that he couldn't reprint.
I agree. Yeah,
that sounds like a nightmare, especially with all the early cameo stuff. Like you can still buy the Savage Dragon miniseries with Badrock in it.
Well, yeah,
and I'm an idiot.
Well, and you've also got Wildstar, and now it's Soulstar.
No, it's Wildstar again.
Is it Wildstar?
Is the coloring legitimately why this has never been collected?
Well, that's why the early Savage Dragon issues have never been collected.
I mean,
sorry, because I would just assume they were all colored in the same time frame. They'd all use the same software.
I'm just saying, God,
a lot was lost. A lot was lost in file wise with the colors, if I remember correctly.
Well, let me just ask you this, guys, to be a straight shooter, don't you think this shit would sell today?
Probably. Well, they did reprint Liberty and Justice, so I assume that those color files are safe.
Huh. All right. Well,
I don't know.
we're in
Like
Speculation City.
I
It's
don't
not
understand why there isn't why this stuff isn't in print myself. It's just
right.
It's just what it is. I guess it costs too much is what it always boils down to.
Oh, sure. Well,
because you put together you could probably put together a Super Patriot omnibus like stupid easy.
Oh yeah, there's
and sell
more than
dozens,
enough stuff.
Literally dozens.
Oh my goodness, this fight is good. I like. I always did think it was kind of funny to hear Rockpile's sort of like anti-American sentiment. It's really like hilarious this way he's like just shitting on it. Oh, you American superheroes, So good, dude. And just to see that he is a tiny baby inside all that is awesome. That's awesome as shit. I love it.
I like how when Super Patriot punches him in the chest, he uses his chest to rip his arm off.
Yeah,
and incorporate the metal.
He assimilates it. He absorbs it, and that's just brilliant on how Dave Johnson, incorporates that. You don't really fully see. I mean, you see Super Patriot punch, and then him hold his arm. I almost wish that you would have seen more of how that happens. But
well, I'll tell you what it is. It's a pretty slick sequential art trick in my book, because if you're just sort of like reading the left-hand page and you look over, it just looks like he's punching him.
Yeah,
right.
Like he rips his chest off and punches that baby.
Right.
Then when you go to read it,
for a moment you think that he's punched that baby so hard the baby's dead, but it's a trick.
Yeah, when you actually read it, that's words and pictures, baby. That's comics. Like that's like words and pictures stronger together. Like that's what I love. So to me, it's kind of like it's almost like a slick sequential art trick.
And then that splash page of him holding what's left of Super Patriot with the arm in the foreground.
He's just a torso.
Just a torso. You really get that feel that he's really assimilated that into his structure to heal himself. I mean, I just thought that was great, and I love the color holds on the ship in the background, pushing that back.
Dude, I'm sorry. This has to be early Photoshop. Look at those lens flares. Yeah. I'm sorry, dude.
It's not a party until we have a 90s lens flare.
90s lens flare. I'm sorry. I'm calling this, baby. This is early Photoshop.
Oh, we know it is. You could tell by the hot pink in the first issue. This is just...
I'm just saying, that's one of the hottest visual effects that you could do back then was the lens flare. Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
and that awesome color hold.
Yeah.
Look, we got a color hold, and guess what? Let's pimp it out with a couple lens flares.
I think that's a really successful color hold. Again, you talked about it earlier, but it pushes it in the background.
Oh, it totally.
Yeah, it creates a good atmosphere. I think it is kind of neat the way the Covenant of the Sword doesn't just directly reference Dragon. They keep calling him that green-skinned Chicago cop.
Yeah.
Like, I like that, because again, they kind of Dragon's new at this point.
So here's how you know this is a Kieth Giffen comic.
Mm-hmm.
If there's one thing Kieth Giffen loves, it's black panels with dialogue balloons in them.
Okay.
Well, let's be honest. Eric has used that numerous times as well.
Has he?
Oh, hell yeah.
Well, let me just say this. On another podcast I moonlight on, we read Legion of Superheroes
Traitor.
during the Kieth Giffen era in the 90s, and he loves black panels with dialogue balloons in him.
All right.
Think about what he's done with, Eric, with after the Fiend throws him down into that chute. Right. Those are black panels, or the chimney. You've got, what's his name, that from Johnny Redbeard, the guy that controls the mines.
Mind Brain. No, I can't remember his name. I know who you're talking about.
Not important. Keep moving.
But you start out with the black panels as he's like, Johnny, Johnny, hello, my porn's off. What's going on, John?
Oh, him.
Oh, that guy. Right.
You know, you've got black panels. So Eric has done the black panels as well. It's a great storytelling. It's a nice way to tell a story, and or a nice segue, I should say.
I think there's great sequential art just all over the place in this, because even like on the previous panel where, Super Patriot is on the ground and he's looking at Rockpile, and Rockpile's body is very much Rockpile, but he's just got Dragon's head.
Yeah.
That's a nice little touch, dude. I like that.
Which page are you on?
Just the page before the one that we're on. The one before the black panels.
No, it's not that page.
Yeah.
Before that.
I'm looking at the print comic. That's
Really?
Unless it got rearranged for the digital one.
I doubt
the-
it. Hold
The
on.
top of the page has got the guy yelling Rockpile. And he goes, What? Just doing my job, Shermie. Shermie gets a name. But then, okay, let's get him out of here. And, Super Patriot's head's on the ground, and he's looking, and, Rockpile has the dragon head, and then he laughs. It's been a blast. Ha 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 ha. And then it fades to black on that panel, and then the next panel is 4 panels black, and, of word bubbles.
There might be a page missing here.
Yeah, because I go straight to Keith Giffen.
Yeah, me too.
Kevin Nolan.
Right.
So wait a minute. You guys go right from Psy, I suppose this means playtime's over,
Yep.
to 4 black panels?
Yeah. Yep. So there's a page missing.
Weird.
This is why our illegal downloads are not as good as the real thing, kids.
Well, I've got, you're not missing too awful much. Like I said, just a nice little sequential art sequence of. It's funny because it leads into the 4 black panels. Like you have this, it ends on a black panel, and it's like Super Patriot just thrown to the ground like trash.
Huh.
And they tell him, they're like, you're supposed to subdue him, not dismantle him. And he goes, so sue me, I'm an overachiever. Okay, let's get him out of here. You see Super Patriot's head on the ground he's looking from the ground at Rockpile. Rockpile is mostly in silhouette. You can see his body is Rockpile's, but his head is Savage Dragon's. And then he zooms in, and it's like Savage Dragon's face, and he's like, bye-bye, hero, it's been a blast, ha ha ha, and it's black. And then it leads into the 4 black panels where it's like, it ends the last page. Let's make sure we're on the same 4 black panels. Hold it right there. Old school superhero Super Patriot busting through a window, right?
Yep, that's what we see next. Yep.
You missing a page. No big deal. No big deal.
And this is cool because this is the fight between Super Patriot, Mako, Hellraiser, and what's his face.
Well, the only problem I have is that Mako looks like a fucking rabid dolphin.
Oh, shame on you. Mako looks fine.
No, he doesn't.
No, I see what he's saying.
You got Super Patriot doing like high kicks in a Vegas act, kicking.
There's nothing wrong with that kick.
Really?
Yeah, I can see kind of how awkward it is.
That kick's fine.
And he looks like, have you guys ever seen the movie One Crazy Summer with the rabid dolphin?
No.
Yes.
That's the rabid dolphin from One Crazy Summer.
Yeah. Well, this is back when Mako had tubes, and the tubes never look good on Mako.
And I'm just looking
I'll
at
agree with
looking at the eye and how the teeth are, and
He could use a few more teeth.
it just doesn't. He doesn't look shark-like. He looks like a porpoise.
I won't disagree that it's not the best Mako.
Let us remember that this is 1993.
Let us not forget.
Let us remember. No, this is actually important. Let us remember that this is 1993, and it is not as easy to Google image search. Google doesn't exist. So even search engines don't have an image search function. It's just pretty much you're searching words and you're looking for websites.
Get your zoo books.
Yeah, if you were going to search if you want to see a picture of a shark, you better fucking hope there's a website with a picture of a shark on it.
Or you can just go to a library, Raven.
I mean, listen, dude. If just go to the library allowed you to keep your deadlines, then believe me, I'm telling you, trust me. There's a reason why teenagers on Twitter are making art that is better than guys that were in their fucking 40s and 50s back then. It's because having more information at your disposal makes you a better artist. I'm just saying, shit on this shark man if you wanted. I think he's a product of his time. I think somebody drew a shark from their fucking imagination or from a movie. That's all I'm saying. You didn't have the ability to Google image search a shark's mouth, guys.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying. Because if you'll notice, look how on point, like, the fucking superhero aspect of it is. Like, how badass is, like, that's not Killraiser.
Well,
Cutthroat? That's Cutthroat.
No,
right?
that's not Cutthroat. That's Hellraiser.
Hellraiser.
I'm
okay.
still distracted by the kick. It looks like his leg has been like snapped off and vertical, and the calf is.
Scott James, you are the worst.
No, I agree. I'm not an artist, and I can tell that leg is not anatomically anything.
It's exaggerated for a.
It's not even exaggerated. I mean, it's also really tall.
Look at the size of the
deceptively
calf
long.
compared to the head.
Where is his ass, Raven? Tell me where his ass is. Anyway.
I'm just saying that. Apparently, I'm an insensitive son of a bitch.
It doesn't matter. It's going to get eaten by Mako in a second anyway.
There you go.
I didn't realize. I thought he just had his limbs cut off, but apparently a lot of his chest got removed too, because he's got all kind of like body armor under there.
Yeah, he got mauled.
Yeah, pretty bad. But then we get to the Dave Gibbons section with the 60s team.
Yeah,
we get
Battle
to see.
Tank.
Well, we get to meet. This is all for the first appearance of Battle Tank, who really wouldn't appear again until well into like the 90s. I mean, issue 90s of Savage Dragon, when he came back and his Battle Tank armor was a lot different than we see
a lot
here.
Cooler.
Yeah, a lot more classic. Here it's like a lot more like over designed.
Yeah, it looks more like a cockroach.
Yeah.
Yeah, the little antennas I'm not loving, but I still think this has a cool charm. But yeah, he looks better in Dragon, of course.
I love how long-haired and hippie SuperPatriot's gotten in this era, because this is his I hate. I mean, this is the I reject
the hippie
the government.
Yeah, the hippie patriot.
It was Nom, dude. He didn't support Nom.
Yeah.
He was on the right side of history.
And Battle Tank and Big Man are not impressed by his turning into a pinko commie.
Yeah, I love it's so hilarious. This is, again, to me, well, you can't really say that this series isn't about Johnny, because it's like, yes, he's silent, he's a weapon, but you're very much, like, this is his, like, he's right now, like, these flashbacks, he's right now in a lab fighting for his humanity.
Right.
He's remembering his past. Like, he's trying to remember who he was.
And this page, the coloring on these pages are really cool, because it's way old school, and it like really emphasizes the 4-color dot sort of look.
Oh yeah,
yeah, it's great. These look excellent. These look fantastic. I think the coloring is better on them than on the Kirby section. I don't know if I love the coloring on the Kirby section.
No, the Kirby section coloring is a little too poppy.
I think if Eric had done this in the modern age, he would have gone full on like off center.
Yeah,
color. He would have done a lot.
Yeah, totally
better.
And I think that would have fit this perfect.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I do like the inks. I do like the story and the layout of it. You're right. The color, I think, distracts from that. Where
it's too bright.
Yeah,
it needs to be more faded.
Yeah. If it was more of what Eric has done in the past with that.
But wait a minute. We got to remember, though. We got to bring this back. I'm sorry I keep bringing this up, but remember that Photoshop, Scott, it didn't have layer effects and shit like that back then.
Oh, that's right.
Remember that even layers were an innovation?
This is true.
Is that not incredible to even think that? Like,
I know. And you know, we look at it now, Raven, And we think about what he's doing or what Eric has done with even, I'm thinking of...
Wait, how do you even digitally color without a multiply layer?
I mean, you still can... I think I'm wrong. Like, in 93, they must have had layers, but, like, you didn't have layer modes and settings.
A lot of them
set
used
a layer
to
to multiply.
I believe a lot back then used to cut and remove, like...
Yeah, cuts. You would use the gradient tool.
Yeah, and you would get rid of areas, too.
Lasso.
I just think of what Eric has done in, like, flashbacks with Dark Knight and SuperPatriot. And I think that kind of coloring style would just kill this.
Oh, yeah. If they re-released this, that would be a must.
Yeah.
Like an absolute must. And by the way...
The SS Dragon.
Oh, yeah. You knew where I was going.
Well, you mentioned the Frankenstein story thing, and that this whole sequence is a Frankenstein story.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm telling you. He flips the switch and the monster gets up. And it's fucking SS Dragon.
At
it's
least
cool,
in
dude.
Johnny's mind.
I'm telling you, that's some highfalutin shit, okay? I get it. It's hoity-toity and it's fartsy-artsy. But it's kind of like, if you want to think of it, I'm sorry, join me on this artsy-fartsy, like, real quick. Like, the whole time he keeps facing a hero and he freezes. And then when he's like, trying to find his humanity, it's like, dude, you, like, at the end, at the end, I don't want to spoil it, but it's like, yeah, like, you're a hero. Like, you know, come on, dude. Like, you're Johnny, you're human, you know, come on. You're not a weapon. And, like, I'm telling you, dude, the parallel.
You're Johnny Human, man. You're Johnny Human.
So, yeah, it's good. I will say, don't you guys think it looks like there's some kind of weird stuff going on with the computer screen? Something felt a little weird. Like, SuperPatriot looks weird in that tube.
Well, he's all busted up, but these memories he's been having is causing a feedback loop.
No, I meant artistically.
You're talking...
It's like digital. It's like...
Yeah,
it's
weird
like,
and digital. Doesn't he look pixelated compared to everything else?
Very much so.
Yeah, it's weird. It look how sharp the dude drawn just to his left looks compared to him. It's kind of a little weird.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But yeah, we're talking about the lab scene after the last flashback section.
Yeah, i.e. shut it down.
There's a lot of weird transitions, especially with the colors, but I think that has a lot to do with what they were doing color-wise and trying. And it makes me wonder, how many people did you have coloring this? Were they all assigned a certain page, especially page count, especially if you're dealing with different artistic styles? You know, you're going to do this.
Let's see. Hold on, let me take a look at something. We got Laverne credited in this one.
Is Shirley?
Yeah, Laverne did the other one. Yeah. Shlemiel Shlemazel. I knew you were going to go for it.
Where's Squiggy? Lenny and Squiggy as well.
Wait a minute.
By the way, Jim, these guys absolutely are the council, because if you look at the panel where the senator is talking to the speaker, once again, I guess, of the council, there's two more dudes just like him in the background.
Okay.
So they've got to be the council. Like, there's all those floating dudes.
Yep.
Can you imagine choosing to be that fucking thing? I'm sorry. Can you...
Don't you want to be a higher life form?
I mean... Can you imagine? I'm just saying.
All you gotta do is cut your dick off.
I was just thinking, I'm sorry. No, I think I like... Yeah, no.
Having fucking legs?
No, I like coitus.
It just looks like these guys couldn't fucking exist outside of that tube. That's all.
No.
Like, it looks like they have pretty much gone whole hog on just being in that little chamber. I don't know. Maybe those things can fly. Maybe I'm
let
stupid.
Let me gently touch you with my iron spike. You know, let me caress you, Senator. Yeah. Mm.
I think those might be holograms. Those light tubes. They may not actually be in the room.
I think they're in the room. That's just me. I'm a little confused. There's a story beat that confuses my brain just a bit. Help me out.
I'll explain it to you.
Yeah, help me out, fellas. I'm a little hurt here. Or not hurt, but confused. So the senator tells the lead of the council that she has a great idea, that she's going to, delete the trauma. So she's going to get rid of that pesky savage dragon problem, which as we know story-wise is actually Johnny's fight to regain his humanity.
Right.
And then he goes, "What do you suggest?" And then, it's kind of like when we flip over, we see this cat talking to the head of, the government there, and he's like, "Oh, Sai, a worldwide override. Their message broadcast on every frequency. What a disaster."
Right. They're broadcasting the images of Johnny versus Rockpile.
Getting beaten up.
To get his ass beat. Because he's all dressed, he's all decked out in the American flag, so it embarrasses the United States government to have their hero get his ass kicked.
Got it. Get it. I didn't realize that. Okay. I'm stupid. Yep. That makes nothing but sense. That was literally their whole thing. But
that's only part one. Part two is sending Johnny to kill all these fools.
Right. Got it. Okay. Yeah, I was like, I saw the 4 panels of him getting beat, but I thought he was just watching Johnny get beat. But then he's like, yeah, they're broadcasting. I get it, dude. Okay, I'm stupid. All right. Thank you. Appreciate it. It's good to talk these over with people.
All right,
By the way, they give this guy a name. They say who he is. He's with Bloodstrike.
Oh, yeah, he's a member of Bloodstrike.
Yeah.
I don't recognize him.
Didn't they say Cabot?
Is it Cabot? Oh, wait.
Oh, Sentinel.
Oh, it's
Sentinel.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't think it was Cabot. Cabot, I think, shows up later.
Yeah, he's Sentinel. Okay. By the way, keeping up the Frankenstein motif, we see SuperPatriot at the end of this again on yet another operating table,
getting rebuilt
with
even more canisters.
And he's got the Covenant of the Sword logo on his chest. So that's a lead-in for the next one.
Yep, next issue, Return to Sender, which we will talk about on the next episode. But before then...
Oh, yeah.
Is there any letters on here you care to talk about?
There is. Hold on here. So the letters section is largely just, kind of fluffy-wuffy. There is one thing to note. Legendary letter hack Olaf Beamer weighs in. So that's a name that, thanks to Michel Fife, is more on my radar, seeing his letters, from all these years, 17 years ago, his letters, and so he's writing in. So Olaf makes an appearance in the letter section, but for the most part, people are pleased. There's a really hilarious. There's 2 hilarious ones in the next 2 issues, so I'll be sure to talk about that. But for the most part, people are stoked and they're happy. And they're just sort of talking about how much they dig it. And, he's just talking about, Vic Bridges. There's nothing especially mind-blowing to, pull out of here. The ads, I'll just jump right into that.
Hit those ads.
Yeah, the ads, once again, Freak Force coming soon. Once again, images of Shadowhawk. Once again, Vanguard. However, flip the script because we got the Max issue number 5. So it's a beautiful image, the one of Max, with just ribbons exploding off of his back and Julie sort of falling backwards towards the reader. Such a great image. And then once again, we have an ad for Spawn 15. We've got another ad for Prophet, but this is a single page where it says, "He's come to settle the score." And this one is drawn by Chris Alexander and Rapmund. I don't know, but it's a guy doing his damnedest to look like Liefeld. Then you got an ad for Trencher number 0. This ad you probably have in your mind. If you think for 2 seconds, you'll remember.
I do, yes.
Solid black. It says, "Fat chance of that ever happening." And then it says, "But, we're up to issue 5. And still only...
Except you're not.
It says, "We're up to issue 5.
Because there is no issue 5.
Still only $1.95. Check us out."
There are only 4 issues of Trencher plus a couple of crossovers.
And then the back cover, another pure text ad, just black with the Savage Dragon fin. It says, "Eric Larson writes, Savage Dragon 5. Poster insert by Adam Hughes." So it's a good one. It's classic.
So
absolutely great.
Any last thoughts about SuperPatriot 1 and 2?
Loving them. Loving them.
The artwork is stellar. Knowing what they were dealing with color wise, you can forgive a lot knowing the era. It would be interesting to see what they would do color wise today.
Oh yeah, totally agree.
I think there would be so many more textures, so many more things going on. But you gotta love the hot ass pink and neon green palette.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say I think the art is timeless. I think the art is timeless, and I think the colors are a product of their time. But I think they are a more charming. It's more hit than miss. That's what I was trying to say. It's more hit than miss. It's a product of its time, to be sure, but it's more hit than miss. And I think that you asked my opinion on just those two issues. I think that is fucking one of the greatest first issues in a miniseries. Fucking
put
ever.
Johnson on the map.
Yeah, I think that first issue will hook anybody.
Well, and I am a firm believer that this series put Dave Johnson on the map. If it wasn't for this, I don't think we would have the Dave Johnson that we have today. If he didn't do Super Patriot, he would not have. He would not be where he's. Maybe he would be, but I feel this really escalated his stature as an illustrator. I mean, he was talented, but it was just a great showcase for what he could do, storytelling-wise and artistically.
I think that first issue was absolutely insane and perfect as a hook and for a miniseries, and I think that second issue was strong as hell with all kinds of, with the 4 surprise guest flashback artists. And so, to me, 1 and 2 are strong as hell. I give them both. I give issue number 1 a 10. I give issue number 2 like a 9.5. So, fucking
I couldn't agree more with your rating on that. I would say that you hit the pocket with that rating right on the head.
Rock on. Thanks. Rock on. Jim, your thoughts, dude.
Oh, it's a great start to a classic miniseries. I'm glad I finally got around to it.
Yeah. I would say must read for any Dragon fan, honestly.
Oh, agreed.
Must. Oh, yeah. This is one of those essential miniseries. It's not like Wildstar, which is like ancillary at best. This is if you're reading Savage Dragon from the beginning, this is essential.
Oh, yeah. You got to. All right. Well, thank you so much, Scott, for joining us, filling in for Craig Bott. And thank you, Jim. As always, it is absolutely incredible always talking with you, Savage Dragon stuff. Thanks for helping us out, Scott. And thank you, listeners, for joining us. Join us next time. We're going to do Super Patriot 3 and Super Patriot 4. Bring this bad boy to a conclusion. So thanks, everyone. Thank you so much for listening.
We out.
Thank you, guys.